Episode 51 of Invest in Music with the grand prize winners of Optimism's We Heart the Art competition. In a first of its kind episode, we have two combined in one. We have 30 minutes with the Park and 30 minutes with Aly and Bloody from their submission goodie bag. Today we get into everything behind the contest itself. We hear the backstory of the songs from the artists who submitted them. We hear about the collectives, how on-chain music's evolved, and much, much more. As a reminder, you can collect this episode on investinmusic.xyz. But without further ado, we got two amazing guests to get on one episode. So let's get into it. Episode 51 of Invest in Music with the winners of the We Heart the Art on-chain art competition. All right. I got Derek from the Park here, fresh off the back of the We Love the Art grand prize winner in the music category. Derek, how are you feeling today, man?
Happy Friday. Every day is Friday. The Park is in your heart. We're feeling honored. We're feeling excited. Just elation is around. It's a good day. It's a good day on the internet. Yeah.
It's a great day on the internet. And I feel like this is a particularly exciting day for you. You know, obviously the announcement just went out about you winning the prize for the We Love the Art competition. The Park is something that I feel like has been a consistent voice in the community for quite some time, but I feel like this is really just a major staple, 50 KOP going back to the song Becky, which had a major story behind it. I want to start by first talking a little bit more about the Park and kind of setting the foundation for it. And then from there, go into the song itself. So for those who don't know, why don't you give a quick background on the Park and kind of how it all started?
Yeah, the Park is in probably its third era. There's kind of like three eras of the Park so far. We're celebrating 20 years of the Park. We started in San Francisco, 2003, pre-on-chain, doing on-chain things together, a collective of people making music in San Francisco. That first V1 Park was in San Francisco, 2003 to 2009, 10. V2, the Park is traveling around the world, kind of 2010 to 2020, in support of great artists like Banks or Logic or K-Flay or, making records in the traditional music world. V3 of the Park is really just embracing on-chain music ideas, collective creation and collaboration, using tools like Catalog, Sound XYZ, Zora, Nouns Builder. So we're in this V3 of the Park, excited that, we're able to collaborate with people all around the world. It's just really a testament of the internet and collective creation in where we're at in this juncture of V3 of the Park. But the Park, it has lots of different silos. So one place right now, sorry, in the background, there's action happening. We're in the back of Minotti's in Culver City, and people are doing stuff. Things are happening. So sorry
Things
if
are
I'm
definitely
not
happening
in the most stable place right now. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and it's a good through line for our story too, because I first met you through FWB, one of literally the earliest members in the community. You were very active as a host of Coffee Time, which is basically this weekly session where you're having people come out and jam on all things creative, very strong focus on the coffee energy. Why don't you also give a quick background on yourself and some of the stuff that you're doing outside the Park, just to help give people your full on-chain history?
Yeah, I'm a drummer. I'm a musician. I'm in the moments industry, like have helped people build shows for, as big as Madison Square Garden down to little backyard barbecues on the music side, Coachella to South by Southwest. We make stuff happen together with the Park and our crew in live music and entertainment. Also, my wife and I and some friends own some coffee shops together. Minotti's in Venice Beach, founded 2013. Shops in Culver City, Tokyo, around the world. And then on-chain, I've just been an explorer through the vehicle of music, for 10 plus years. Originally using some of my PDs to find Bitcoin ATMs around the world with my friend Banks. And in more recent years, it's helping bring other artists and musicians on chain. FWB was an incredible place. Trevor McFredries was our original manager and friend. Airdrop sent some tokens early 2000. What was that? 2020?
Yeah, 19 maybe.
No, I think it was 20. The after DeFi summer, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, FWB, we were exploring just using and setting up and learning how to use collab land, and just it was such an incredible moment in time to learn together on the internet. But yeah, through FWB, just helped bring more people on chain. Part of my mission and Park's mission is really just to help musicians and creative people get on chain, because we do see it as this new internet, you know. On chain
Hmm.
is the new online. That's where we are right now, and we want to share those best practices and learnings together, and make it accessible to more people to use around the world. So that's what we've been exploring with, and yeah.
It's an amazing story. And I think for me, the word that comes to mind is consistency. You know, you came into the space, and ever since, you've been a constant voice. You've been showing up on at least a weekly basis, if not like on a daily basis. And, you know, I just feel like this is such a monumental moment for the park, because I feel like you guys have been so consistent in putting music on chain. You're doing these meetups very frequently at the studio. You're making live music. You know, I think that anyone that's in on chain music has definitely heard of the park in some way, shape, or form. And I think to be able to have this big staple moment of saying, like, hey, not only are we a community that is really respected from what we do on the ground floor, but to have the music kind of co-signed in such a large incentive manner, I think really just seals the deal for it being a brand that people should really look into and pay attention. And so I guess going over to the song itself, you know, Becky is a really interesting case study, because not only is it a phenomenal song, it has an incredible story behind it. You know, 15K mints on Zora. Take us through the
Yeah,
life cycle of Becky and kind of how this came to life.
thank you, Coop. Yeah, consistency is key. You know, that's something that we try to do, is to show up for each other weekly, show up for our community weekly. Yeah, consistency is super key to the park and the journey. Davin is our friend in Uganda, and he really embraced that consistency as well. In June of 2023, he purchased the Park Builder DAO token to join the park. The park is a Nouns Builder DAO. We are super inspired by Nouns, and you know, we've used that Zora forked smart contract to build our own on-chain collective. Davin joined the Park Nouns Builder June of last year. Started showing up to our weekly calls. The coffee time that you talked about earlier, we started initially in FWB, has continued still every Wednesday. It's 9:30 a.m. PST, weekly call with friends around the world. Gavin started showing up weekly. Really loved some of the ideas and formation of songs and mints and ideas. And so he kind of learned from us all about what the simple format and ritual of Fridays at the Park is. You know, we get together, we have coffee, have lunch, talk about the internet, make a song, jam, mint that song. Pretty simple format, but the
Hmm.
consistency of it is super key. People need to make music together in person. And so he just really loved that spirit, learned the format, wrote a proposal to the Park DAO in, I think, October or November, to fund Fridays at the Park in Uganda, Kampala, Uganda. So this is the first moment that somebody wants to prove that the format can go worldwide. Fridays at the Park is worldwide now. So Davin uh, proposes one ETH proposal to the park. We fund it collectively. He hires a studio, brings Schwento crew together. They make some songs, have coffee, food, do the park ritual, mint some things on OP. Shouts out to the super chain. You know, the the full OP stack is where Fridays at the Park Kampala, Uganda gets minted first. David sends some stems back to the park crew in LA. You know, we marinate on it. It's a big sauce that we're building together. It's cross continent, you know, cross chain collaboration happening. We add some ideas, change some format, you know, put some love into the song, send it back to Davin and the crew. They really love it. Meanwhile, you know, this is kind of December. We see the optimism, we love the arts thing bubbling up in all our timelines. And we're like, wow, this is like really a testament of the internet coming together to, you know, collaborate on chain. Like, I don't know that this collaboration could happen at any other time in history. And so we're like, we need to submit this. We need to tell this story. You know, this crew connected with this crew across the world to make some amazing art happen together to share with the world. And so I'm just thankful for their trust and curiosity in us, and I'm thankful for our crew to like learn and share together in real time. And so yeah, this song, idea started in on chain, kind of made its way from LA to Kampala and back again. And
Mm.
yeah, we minted that in January, submitted it, and then the Park Becky V2 was minted on base. So this is really a testament of all the chains coming together. A lot of our work exists on Zora, L1, base as well. And so some people just really love the song. It took off thanks to bass and just people around the world being curious and loving the music. So really excited
Yeah,
that
and I think it's
yeah,
a
that's a lot
phenomenal
of
case
information.
study.
I'm sorry that's a lot of information,
It's
but
a good thing.
hopefully yeah, it's making sense.
I feel like it's a really great example of how you can fund creative projects natively on chain through people that are uniquely passionate about this space. And I think one of the most
Yeah,
powerful parts there is you mentioned a proposal for 1 ETH to go and create the song. The song on Zora alone, I think has, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like 15K editions, something around like 6.5 ETH of creator earnings. And so take
yeah,
aside the Optimism competition, like that already is a case study of like this song basically made the equivalent of, let's call it near 10 million streams. It's not one to one, but millions of streams worth of
yeah,
value created on the back of a song that was funded on chain, that was minted exclusively on chain. And I think
yeah.
that that's extremely powerful. And I guess I don't know if you have any commentary on that, but before you go into like the Optimism competition and that kind of prize, like how did you feel about the success that this song saw from being minted on chain?
I mean, the success of Becky V2 being minted so many times on base is huge for us. Yeah. I mean, we're able to share, 6 point something ETH together with a crew in Uganda. Like this is going to help, uh, buy passport or get passports for some people, really trying to bring the whole Schwento crew to FWB Fest, 2024 to play this song live together. Like some of these ETH rewards are going to, funding further Fridays at the Park in Uganda. Like we've now funded another Fridays at the Park session in Uganda from these ETH rewards. Like it's really helping change people's lives, to continue to be creative, to continue to bring works on chain. But yeah, we're going to use some of these funds, from the Becky V2 mint, protocol rewards to like actually put action into some type of traditional campaign as well for Becky V2, similar to what we've learned from Daniel and Lyra and Coop Records crew. Like we feel like this song should be, do well on chain and in traditional DSP world as well. So some of those
Mm,
rewards are helping us with a campaign in the next couple weeks to just to push the song as well further, around the world through traditional outlets as well. Um,
nice.
but yeah, pretty crazy.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah,
I feel like that's like a good segue too into 50 KOP, the grand prize from the Optimism We Love the Art competition. For context for listeners, it's currently over $200,000 USD value. And you think about, you already have 6 ETH in your pocket from the mints on Zora and Base alone, which is, we'll call it roughly 25 grand. You now have another 200 grand that gets injected into the equation here. How do you think about that as a collective owner in terms of being a part of the park? How do you think about that in terms of this song individually and the success it's having? Take me through your real time mindset. I know a lot of this is evolving. You get an email that says you win 50
yeah,
KOP. What's going through your
yeah,
mind?
yeah. It's uh, public goods just comes to mind. Like people getting to work on the things that they love. We've all been working on things that we love for a long time, and we want to continue to pay people to work on art that they love as well. So, it is a huge amount of money and a huge honor for us, but it's further just investing right back into each other to collectively keep this going. The park, works on a series called Fridays at the Park, which is the format of the lunch, the hang, talking about the internet making a song, like that all costs money to make those. So it helps us
Mm.
make more of Fridays at the Park. It helps us further prove that Fridays at the Park worldwide is a thing. Like we want to be supporting, you know, other teams around the world to be doing the same thing, similar to Uganda. This week, we're flying down to Honduras to do Fridays at the Park in Honduras on Friday this week. Like we just booked this in the last week, not even knowing that the OP grant was gonna happen. So it's something that we want to share with more people around the world to be a part of this community. It's the park is in your heart. It started in this small crew, but it's something that is bigger than all of us. And public goods is like the direction of like where this funding goes towards. It's continuing to make amazing music with friends and trusted people around the world.
Yeah.
So yeah, when I first think about it too, it's like uh, the scary words of taxes and like
Mm-hmm.
there's some that probably is set aside for that. There's a good split of trying to bring Uganda crew to FWB Fest this year. There's a lot of people that we will be like sharing this rewards with. It's not just me. Like I know you
Yeah.
see my face here, but there's like big shouts out to Josh Lippy, Ben Schweer, Tim Anderson, David T. Fung, all of these core contributors to our crew. Davin, there's a lot of people that are not seen, like besides me, that are part of the park worldwide. So it,
Mm.
it's just going to help keep propelling this motion and action forward together. But yeah, the
Love
park
that
has
answer.
Happy Friday coffee. We got bottles of coffee that are important that are like one vertical of what we're doing. We're doing things that are sensory, doing things that are musically, like there's all these different verticals of the park for other people to get involved with as we grow and evolve in the upcoming months ahead. So yeah, please reach out. Should we do a prop house? Should we do, we want to be giving some of this OP back to our community in big ways. So a lot of decisions and a lot of like in real time learning happening of like how to approach this in the best way to share with people. But, you know,
Yeah.
public goods is the like real heart of what we want to be doing in the future. We want to be helping other people create, helping other people collect, helping other people curate. We want to be leaning into all those C's and just helping people continue to do what they want to do in the world. So
And it's very powerful timing too. I'll be very
yeah,
transparent in saying that for as passionate as you and I are about on-chain music, I think it's fair to say that it has not seen the same level of success in the past 2 to 3 months that the rest of the market has. You look at
yeah,
Bitcoin going to all-time highs today, you look at ETH ripping, you look at tokens on base, you look at Solana meme coins, and in general, the market is up and to the right. But you look at
yeah,
on-chain music, and frankly, it's a very different story. It's not like you're seeing, you know, 100 ETH paydays anymore. You're not seeing drops that are consistently doing 20 grand a piece. Like something like Becky
yeah,
that's doing a 6 ETH mint is extremely abnormal for where the
yeah,
times are right now. And so when you have an injection of capital in the form of a 50 KOP grant, it creates a lot of opportunity. And I think going into the way
yes,
that I think about this as someone running an on-chain record label is I see OP as growth incentives to keep spreading the narrative and the mission of your brand. I think that in a lot of
yeah,
ways, the way in which OP makes its way down to people like the park, or in a lot of ways like what we're doing at Coop Records, is you contribute value, you create impact, you receive these tokens, and these tokens aren't necessarily for you to sit on and sell as like a moon bag to go and buy a house. To me, it's
yeah,
really just finding a way to keep trickling that down to the people that matter the most, which is the artists, which are the collectors, which are
yeah,
the contributors. And I think something
yep,
that I really resonate with your answer there is to say 50 KOP is fantastic. It's an incredible amount of money. You're giving it to a lot of people. You think about flying
yeah.
people out from Uganda, you think about giving it to contributors, then that money can go by pretty fast,
It's
especially when you
gone.
factor in
Yeah,
the taxes and everything. And so I
oh
think
yeah,
it's important to think
yeah,
about like the ways to make the most impact with it. Cause I think on the surface level, you'll just see a headline of like this song made 200 grand and everyone's like, oh, this is crazy. But then you think about the
Yeah,
nuance and the mechanics around how to effectively allocate that within your community, and it's a much harder and a different story than what I think people see on the surface.
truly. Yeah, thank you for highlighting that. Yeah, it is just the start too of like a bigger wave of what the park is able to do for core contributors and people that are just experimenting and participating with us. You know, coordination has been a big part of what you and I have talked about for a long time. Collaboration is a big part of that, and so the park is going to continue to do that. And this is really just the start of people recognizing that and helping us continue to do it. So um, we are so excited for this first step. It really is. This is 20 years of the park too.
Mm.
For a lot of people, it seems like hyperspeed, but you know, this group of people have been consistently creating stuff together for 20 years, and hopefully
Mm.
we'll be able to tell that story better in the fall as we approach the actual like kind of 20-year mark. But yeah, this is a really incredible moment in time, and like so honored and thankful to do it. Can I ask you a question too? Because
Of
if
course.
you haven't joined one of the Park DAO calls yet, but one of the fun things that we do is the 5 sauce challenge. So if you were on a deserted island for the rest of times and you could only live with 5 sauces forever, what would those 5 sauces be?
5 sauces. Like,
Sauces, yes. Just, you know, it's, you have a hand. Tim likes to say, you know, you got your hand and it's like, you know, ketchup, mustard, whatever. Like, bolognese. What do you got? You got a chocolate sauce? What do you got, Coop? You got a, do you have a, is there acai sauce that I don't know about? Like, you know, do we got,
if we could consider Aussie a sauce, I would throw it in there, maybe like
I
as a
mean, for
blend.
you,
I think it's a
I think for you, it would be its own sauce. You could probably cook
yeah.
with it in some way. Yeah.
I would go Aussie ketchup, big ketchup guy. I would
Yeah.
go
He's sweet. He's
caramel.
sweet. Caramel. He's sweet. He's so sweet.
Yeah, I love caramel. You know, there's this sweet like Thai chili sauce that they put on the wings.
Yeah, the red one. It's in
Yeah.
the red sweet red chili sauce. 4.
And then fifth would probably
You
be
got to get a little umami in there. You need some salt. You need some savory to balance it. But don't let me.
yeah. I would kind of be more on like a creamy wave, like
Yeah.
some sort of like a whipped cream type vibe.
Whoa! It's sweet. Still, he's sweet. Everyone.
Yeah.
Thanks for playing along. 5 sauce challenge. The Park DAO. Fridays of the Park. Coop did it. He did it.
Yeah.
Cool.
100%. I think
Yeah.
in general for me, man, it's been so amazing to watch just your growth personally with the development of the park, because I think, you know, when we first met, I feel like there was a lot of ambition for you to figure out how to expand what was at the time coffee time, specifically in terms of its on-chain presence, you know. And I think
Yeah.
you alluded to this in your backstory, but you started doing Nouns Builder, you broke out a custom smart contract, you guys are minting all your music on chain, you're putting IRL sessions on chain, you're across base, you're standing up a coffee shop in partnership with Nouns. Like, it just feels like you really found a way to be very fluid in your on-chain footprint. And I guess the question
Thank
I would
you.
have to you would be, for other creatives that are in a similar position of
I
wanting
lost you.
to make an impact on chain, bring their projects on chain, etc., how would you recommend that people bring their collectives on chain? Like, as someone who's been doing it for a number of years now, what are the biggest things you've learned from being an operator in the space?
I lost half of what you were saying, but I think I understand the question. I would Nouns Builder has been a great tool for us. It doesn't work for everyone. I think it's a great tool because it's overpromise, or no, it's not overpromise. It's underdeliver. No, I can't even think right now. Sorry, Nouns Builder is a great tool because it's like under promise, over deliver over time for
There
it.
it is.
Most of the 10K PFP collections are more like over promise, under deliver. Sorry, couldn't think.
Right.
Glitching technology. But yeah, Party Bid's a great tool to bring people together to talk and do some on chain things together. Our favorite tools are really Zora, like Zora creator toolkits. That is the thing that everyone can use in a very simple way now. And inside that, you can collaborate on mints, do splits very simply. You can build all types of on-chain, like, you know, through line back and forth between different people with using the Zora Creator Toolkit. But we've explored and used everything, from manifold to catalog and sound and custom contracts. And I think Zora's tools are the easiest and the most accessible to do very simple things and do very complex things on chain. And so huge shout out to Zora for continuing to show up and support creative people like that. Full stop. Zora's got the tools.
Nice.
But yeah, Nouns Builder is a little more like complicated for people, but also very important to build treasuries together and do work together on chain. Right. Yeah, thank you. I know I'm conscious of your time.
I would say to even pull that out a bit there, your point about trying everything, I really resonate with. I think that there's so many different tools on the tables today. There's so many different ways to put your music on chain, to start it out, to do a million different things. And the reality is there's no one right answer. What works well for you might not work well for me. What works well for me might not work well for you. But I think to your point, if you're just willing to be open-minded and just mess around a bunch, try a lot of things that work, try a lot of things that don't work, you end up coming to a place where magic happens, and I think that Becky V2 is a great example of that, where when you set out to do music on chain with the Park, it's hard to have fathomed that this would be the outcome of it. But by virtue of just putting the right buckets in place, something like this came to life. And I think the big takeaway I would kind of highlight as, the winner of this competition, and to anyone that's listening to this wondering, like, how do I make an impact in the future, would be just find ways to have fun on chain. What I love the most about what you're doing is that it has a very serious undertone and a very strong foundation to it, but it's formatted in a way that feels inviting. It's accessible. If someone wants to pull up to your studio, if someone wants to be involved musically, they don't have to be super deep into crypto. You do a really good job of just making people feel welcomed and making the space not feel super intimidating. And so, I would just kind of really co-sign your thought process there, and just want to really commend you for your evolution in the space, and that I have a very high hope and very strong belief in you and what you're doing in the years to come.
Thank you, Coop. I believe in you. I appreciate that. Keep exploring, everyone. Consistently explore. Use the tools. Have fun. Yeah, thank you. I'm excited. Wow. It's happening.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
And I think this is a really good sentiment to leave it on here, Derek. For people that want to stay up with you and the Park and everything else beyond this, what's the best place for them to get involved?
Warpcast at the Park, X, Twitter at the Park, thepark.whatthefuck, Fridays at the Park on IG. Happy Friday. Live every day like it's Friday. Fridays at the Park. Happy Friday. That's the meme. That's the mantra. Just keep celebrating every day like it's Friday. I love you. It's so glitchy on my side.
Well, Derek, thank you so much for making the time, man.
Yeah.
We're fighting through. We're fighting through.
I love it.
I really appreciate you, man. I'm so happy.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
And I can't wait to see what you guys do. So keep us all in the loop. Shout out Becky V2. Shout out We Love the Art. And we'll be talking to you again very soon, I'm sure.
Worldwide. See you soon, Coop.
We are back. We got Ali and Bloody White, the winners of the Optimism We Heart the Art grand prize. How are we feeling today, gentlemen?
I feel good.
I feel good. I feel very shell-shocked still. It hasn't really set in.
It's definitely surreal. I didn't expect to win anything. I thought if I won a couple $100, I would be happy. So this is it's a pretty big W.
Yeah. Same. Crazy.
Well, it's an amazing time to be in on-chain music. I'm really fired up for you guys because you have been consistently releasing music on-chain for quite some time now. This competition, I think, was unique in the sense that, as you both alluded to, it was very unexpected. It's not like there was plans to be dropping something for this competition, or this was a foresight that you had for quite a long time. I feel like it just kind of came up and it happened. So let's dive into the background of the song quick. I know that obviously, Ali, there's a wider story here with goodie bags and sweets. Let's start there, and then we'll kind of circle back over to Bloody here, and he can talk about his involvement with the song as well.
For sure. Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you for having us and I will always be grateful to Lucas for being down because he's like one of my favorite musicians in Web3 and out. So I just I feel I was texting Alec. I was like, I feel like the biggest win in this. I mean, prior to this, the biggest win was just the fact that we executed this shit, and it was just like so perfectly like what I was hoping for out of like the first goodie bag or the second goodie bag actually, the first one that's released. It comes into play like the goodie bag concept on the back of Sweets, and so I have to talk about Sweets for a second, which is essentially like a series of albums made of 30-second songs that I've been releasing. First one I did, I want to say I dropped it in 2020, and the second one just dropped on DSPs a couple weeks ago, but dropped in Web3 about a year ago. And essentially, the idea is making 30-second songs comprise a full album, so you have a 6-minute long album. The idea for goodie bags actually came from the catalog sale. I don't know if I ever told y'all this, but it was like sometime last year, and I'd put up the entire Sweets 1 album. Usually I split it up into songs, but I'd put up the whole album as one of one on catalog, and it sold for 5 ETH. And that combined with conversations that I have with collectors saying that they didn't want to necessarily collect 30-second songs made me think like, okay, I think that I'm making these things thinking of them as one huge body of work, one piece. So it makes sense that people are wanting to receive it that way. And so that kind of birthed the idea of collaborating with other artists to make these like essentially album in song type things. It's tough I've had a hard time explaining the concept of it without just playing it for somebody. But I have a long ass list in my phone of every artist that I would like to collaborate with on one of these. And Lucas was on that list, and a bunch of other my friends are. We have like 4 or 5 in process. And I'm just so grateful that like we were able to finish it. And then we've been sitting on it for like a year. But Lucas, I feel like I should probably let you cut in.
Yeah, I mean, when Ollie hit me about it, it was kind of already in my wheelhouse of shit that I like to do in terms of the process. Like creating a little mixtape within a song is kind of like, that's kind of something that I admire creatively, and that was pretty easy for me to hop in on because like I don't know, I'm a big proponent of contrast in art. So like you'll hear songs of mine that have like a very heavy like aggressive cold drum section, and then a very like somber like soft piano thing, like all within the same song. So it wasn't a huge like leap for me mentally to get on board with something like that, and it was actually like it was just a lot of fun to work on.
And what did the creative process of this look like? Because for people who haven't heard the song yet, it's basically, I want to say 6 songs in one, 5 songs in one. How many different snippets are in there?
Wallace counted 7. I never counted before.
Cool.
So
7 songs in
7.
one. How do you go into the creative process of making 7 songs over the course of 4 minutes and 23 seconds?
I want to hear what Lucas describes it as personally.
It's actually kind of fucking easy because a lot no, I don't mean it in that way, but I mean like I have so many like 30-second demos of different things that I'll just never finish. Like I have like probably a couple thousand at this point. And so I know Ollie brought some demos to me where it was just like more basic, like I don't know if it was like guitar, like just like it would be like an instrument and like a vocal, and it would be like a minute and a half long. And I'm like, okay, that's perfect because that's like the type of stuff that I work with all the time. So yeah, it was kind of just like collecting these demos that we knew had like a clear feeling, a clear tone to them, and then expanding off of them, like fleshing them out a little bit. But we didn't have to like force ourselves to extend these tracks to like 2:30, 3 minutes, because you know we could transition into the next thing, which was kind of nice for a change and freeing.
Yeah, I find that it happens really naturally. I a lot of times just make something short, and I feel like we're in a place in like music right now where that's fine. And if you want a 3-minute song, just listen to the minute snippet 3 times, or listen to the minute and a half twice, or whatever. But it's really cool. It's like you just like blurt it out. You make the thing, and then instead of having to think about it, because usually that's the point in the creative process where you zoom out and like think about how the song fits together and all that, you just do something else. And so I find it comes really naturally. But as far as the specific process for this one, I think Lucas just came over to my house like 2 or 3 times. We worked for like 8 hours each on each time. And at that point we had like a general arrangement. And then I sat with it over the course of like 6 months and chipped away at different arrangements and like moving different songs to different places, trying different transitions out. There was one entire song, a couple entire songs, but one entire song that we cut completely, and I only kept the string arrangement that was like a portion of like I think Lucas had made this beautiful string arrangement, and then it was part of like this beat inside or whatever. And I just stripped everything away except for the string arrangement, pitched to the key, did some time, like, stuff like that kind of arrangement wise to make it all fit together. And then we met one other time because I felt like we needed one more song, and that's where we made the last song on it. And that was my first time ever recording clarinet since like middle school, or playing clarinet really since middle school. I like had got this clarinet from a dude at my job, and on that call, Lucas was working on his part. I recorded the vocals to this is the last section, and then recorded this clarinet section, which I'd always wanted to do, and that was it. It was great.
What do you think called you to want to submit this specific goodie bag in this song for the contest? You mentioned that this is something that you've been working on and kind of thinking about for a while. You put out a project on Chain called Sweets about a year ago that had some 30-second snippets. Was there something specific about this particular goodie bag with Bloody that felt like it was particularly, relevant for this competition?
What's funny is I didn't realize how relevant it was and how perfectly suited it was to the competition until after I submitted it. It was just, in my opinion, like my favorite thing that I was sitting on in that moment. And so I was just excited to show it. And I've been looking for an entry to get back into dropping the goodie bag project because the space has changed so much. So I was like looking for an entry point. Yeah. And so it felt natural in that lens. And then when I actually like looked at the Optimism like contest description after I'd already decided that we were going to submit it, it like just every bit of what y'all were looking for just fit in my mind perfectly with what we had made. And so it just like locked in more and more and more that like this was the right. And so there was never a point where I was like, I think that there's something better I could be submitting. I was like, if somebody like beats us fair and square, then like I gave my best shot. Because I originally was gonna put in a different song, which is like whatever I had just made that I was excited about. But I was like, wait, man, like if there's like a 0.1%, if there's a chance I could win $1,000 on this contest, which is an insane feat, regardless, I want to put my best foot forward. I want us to put our best foot forward. And there's and obviously like being able to split this with Lucas is like, what a blessing to be able to like share that. It's so cool.
100%. Lucas, anything you want to add in there?
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of the same thing. I expected that. I didn't expect to. I wasn't even thinking about it actually at all. Like the contest, like we submitted it, and like I don't know how many months went by, like 2-3 months went by, and I just like it wasn't even on my mind. And then I heard that we were in the running to like sort of be in the finalists, and like that, even that news was like shocked me. Like it was crazy. Like it's not that I didn't think that we made a good song. I knew we made a good song, but it's like there's like I don't know how many submissions. There was like 750 something submissions. Like it's it's fucking it's difficult to stand out amongst that many different artists, regardless of what you're doing. So hearing that we were in the finalists was already a shock enough. So this is I'm still processing it.
And what's your guys' kind of reaction on the contest as a whole? Like as people who have been releasing music traditionally for a long time, for people who have been releasing music on Chain for a long time now, like what is your reaction to being able to come away with the grand prize in a competition of this nature?
I'm not processing it fully. I think like the more it comes in waves for me. And so I'll go through just these really strong feelings of gratitude and happiness and like shock. And then I'll kind of just like be thinking about it as like I'll like zoom out and just think about it in the context of like my life and my journey. And it feels like a really like a much needed like badge of honor and stamp along the way to like co-sign. Okay, cool. Don't give up. Keep going. Keep trying. because I know that's something that I've struggled with specifically. Like the last 6 to 12 months, I felt good, but like the 2 or 3 years before that, I was definitely like up and down with confidence in various places, which is when Web3 first entered my journey was like at my lowest point. And I feel like I was like nursed back to feeling good about my art again after like 2 years of being supported by the community and contributing a bunch and like releasing. Like I didn't realize I released like almost 50 songs as NFTs or on-chain music, I guess is what we're calling it. Until Sebastian reached out to me. He pulled up the numbers and I was like, how much money? How much? That's pretty crazy. But yeah, it's not stuff I think about on a daily basis, but it's nuts. Truly nuts.
Yeah, no, sort of the same thing. I mean, I feel like Ollie, you and I have had a kind of similar journey with Web3 in terms of being at your like lowest point and still having that creative energy, and then kind of you know, the community as that's such a buzzword, the community like, but really it is it has been very it's instilled a lot of, it's been very lit. It's instilled a lot of confidence along the way, you know. To have people care about your stuff enough to put money down and
Crazy stuff.
yeah, that's a crazy thing regardless. I think any artist like will always feel that way because art is such like it's an esoteric thing. You can't like it's not tangible. You can't put your hands on it. So the fact that people the only basis for them justifying their purchase is like, do they connect with it in like a I guess if you want to call it a spiritual sense or whatever. So like, you know, if you accomplish that and people connect with your art enough to put money down, then that's always an honor, you know. So
Anything you want to add there, Ollie? I saw you had maybe a side thought there.
No, I mean it's just well said. It's just like the community here really like has added a lot to my personal life and journey. When I think of Web3, I think of like a super nurturing, like warm, tight knit space. So I'm excited to see where it goes from here.
Well, let's unpack that for a bit, because something that you mentioned at the beginning of this was that the space has changed a lot in even the last year alone. You know, and I think something that I find uniquely interesting about your guys' perspective is that for all intents and purposes, I feel like on-chain music was really the main way in which you got really engaged with crypto, the main way that you learned about things like bridging and layer 2 and whatnot. And, you know, a joke I have with Lucas sometimes is that like things like Optimism are pretty endemic of like the current state of crypto, which is like, let's add another thing that's complex and complicated and that the regular person probably has no idea what it is or how to explain it. And I guess I'd love to just kind of take a step back and hear from you guys, like, what's been your perception on the evolution of this space in the last year? I want to hear like very raw and honest thoughts and opinions, and let's just have an open conversation about how this space has changed for better and for worse over the course of the last 12 months.
I want Lucas to go first, if you're cool with that.
That's a big question. That's a very complex question, and I still don't fully know what the blockchain is. I know it's a place where you can validate ownership. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, cool. So I'm not a fucking crypto genius, all right? I deal in ideas and philosophy.
Feelings, textures.
Yeah, I deal in feelings. Yeah, things you can't touch with your hands. That being said,
Facts, bro.
that being said,
Not for sure.
I think the people that are still here, at least the majority of them, really do want to see artists being treated in a way that sort of like validates them, the continuation of their like life path, their creation, their sort of like need to create. Like they want to see artists living off of their art, and they genuinely care about that idea as a whole. Yeah, it's tricky because there definitely are a lot of people also that like grifters that come in and out that just, you know, want to make a quick buck, or are mostly looking at it as a financial prospect, which is fine too. Like I'm, you know, if I'm not going to pretend that I haven't bought NFTs to get profit. Like, I'm not going to pretend that like that's the case, but I think there is a lot of that that pretending going on. Like, the thing that bothers me is like when people, that is the reason that they're here and that's what they're doing, and then they're pretending it's like a wolf in sheep's clothing. It's not even like it's a bad thing to be a wolf in that regard, but it's just like yeah, I don't think I like the dishonesty of that sort of thing. I don't think most people do either. But yeah, I don't know. I'm curious to see where things go. I think as a general rule of thumb, I will always value like authenticity, good art above, even though I've had this as bad art, that yeah, I'll always value those things above above novelty and technology and all of that kind of stuff. So I think as long as you're not just here to like generate buzz with a novel idea that you kind of just shit out quickly, I think you're here for the right reasons.
Yeah. I think that my general impression on the space at first was, like I said, really warm and tight knit. And I felt it change to feel bigger and colder, I would say, like as the last years come in. So I've like had definitely moments more where I struggled to find my niche where I usually didn't at first. Like I first got in, I just started like DMing everybody to call them. So I would do like 5 calls a day for like 5 months straight. And it was through that I got basically my first relationships around the space and made my first couple sales. People were like welcomed me and were kind enough to be like, okay, like I don't care if you like have the craziest master plan, just mint something so you can be here and then we'll support you. And so I had literally like a couple times where my first week in Web3 music, I put up 2 music videos and then it sold for half an ETH each. As like that was my intro to it. This was in November 2021, I want to say. And so to go from that to the point that, you know, it's inevitable that we'd get to as we got more buzz and as things started to work more, where there's more people coming in, there's more people that are excited, and it's very financialized, and that's fine and very respectable because people have bills to pay. It definitely feels like that warmth in that community is a smaller subsection of the bigger music space right now, which I think we all knew was going to happen and which is supposed to happen. That's good. I just find that I have a hard time in certain moments, like feeling that closeness in that community in that direction. Because there was that alignment, like when Daniel did like the first, like when he did Overstim, I want to say it was like the 10E thing that y'all did on Sound. That was like, we were every single person who was in Web3 music, like that was on the same wavelength, that was in the Twitter space. It was like, it's almost like there's like one place that we all could be, and there's one thing that we were excited about in that moment, even if it wasn't ourselves. And now with so much going on, we've seen so many ideas and projects and incredible people and incredible artists come and go. I think that like it's more difficult than ever to suss out, like to Lucas's point, who is authentic and who is here for the right reasons. And I think it also becomes difficult. And I'm here, Cooper, I'm curious to hear what you have to say, because I find as an artist, it's tough for me to find to kind of judge where I should be putting my energy in the context of things.
I think on my end, originally people were here for the collective vision of what this could become. And I think recently it's become a lot more realistic in the sense that this is just another way for you to be able to monetize your music. It's not like this is some like kumbaya, we're all going to, you know, achieve world peace together space anymore. I think people are just like, hey, if you want to collect my music for a couple dollars to show support directly to me as an artist, like great, here's a place that you can do that. You know, this isn't a place where most of these records are going to be trading at 100 ETH on a secondary market. They're these like really rare holy grail gems that only exist in a very finite quantity. And I think to your point, Ali, people have kind of just like filtered out into their own pockets. You know, I think that there's not really one big watering hole, let's say, that everyone's playing really nicely at. It kind of feels like people are just doing their thing in their own chats, talking to their people and whatnot. And I think that creates pros and cons. You know, I think for me, it's been a very humbling last 12 months in the sense of saying like, well, maybe there's not a giant influx of new fans and artists that want to be putting their music on chain. Maybe the number of people that want to do that is actually very niche. And maybe most people just aren't even music heads in the first place. You know, maybe a lot of people who want to collect these things aren't like people who jam music every single day and are like scouring through playlists and buying vinyl and stuff like that. Like maybe most people just want to pick up a record or two here and there, as one of the 20 things that they buy on chain, as opposed to where I think it was before, where it was like people were really associating their identity with the fact that they collected music, the fact that they were dropping music on chain, that they were showing up to these Twitter spaces, etc. So I do feel like it has matured in the sense of the reality of it has come back to a place that I feel like is tangible and is a good place for us to be in. I think that is very challenging for a lot of artists and collectors who were in the space when it had its biggest moment, because there was such a euphoria around it and such a wild expectation in terms of how much you were able to monetize, how much ether you're able to make for collectors, what you're able to do with those songs. And so I think that it was just kind of like a gut check. And I think now we're kind of in this next chapter of like, okay, where does this go from here? And how do we get back to a place where the art is just valued for the art that it is? And I think that competitions like this do a great job of reminding us that there are really, really big benefits to being involved in the space. It's just not going to come in the form that it used to, which was realistically, if you spent time talking to people for a couple hours and you learned how to use the tools and you put a song on chain, you're going to make 100 times more money than you would ever make off Spotify. I feel like now it's kind of coming back to a place that's like, look, if you put 100 hours into the space, there's no guarantee that you're going to make 100x more money than Spotify, because there's not a lot of people here and they're not coming in at a fast rate. So instead, let's treat it how it is. Make sure you put your music up every time you put it out on Spotify, but be conscious that the ability to just like drastically obtain large amounts of ETH from the void is not as prevalent as it once was, and it probably won't be for quite a long time, if I'm being very honest.
Yeah, man. I remember that Oshi drop that he did with his Benny's thing.
Yeah, Beat
they
Foundry.
did like they did like 400K in like an hour.
Yeah.
I was like, this is where we're starting.
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit, we're gonna be so up. But nah, it definitely. I think like maybe I don't know if it was just other people, but I'm like a bit skeptical at heart. And so there was always a voice in the back of my mind that I was kind of ignoring, being like, this doesn't make sense. Like, is that like this, like, I don't understand how this scales. And I just figured that I was like too dumb or lacked the perspective or maybe wasn't up to date on the technicals of it. But I'm realizing more and more, to your point, that like that voice is right. The gut check and the bringing it back down to reality, to what's like realistic on a scalable level, it's just another place. And for those of us, I think, that were lucky enough to get here beforehand and to make these like connections and homes, like we have the benefit of like that community that's residual. But yeah, it's not what it used to be, for better or for worse.
I think it's good to have some skepticism regarding it, because I think if you start, like, if you get a base level knowledge of how to drop on, like, back in the day, like Catalog or even Sound when it was first starting out, and you make like $5,000 from a drop that you put, maybe, like, I don't know how long like the average person works on a song. Let's call it, like, sometimes it's like 8 hours. Let's just call it 8 hours. But you work on this track for like 8 hours, you put it up, you make like $5,000. I think if you go into that with the assumption that you deserve it, you're like, oh, this makes sense that I'm getting this much money for this amount for doing something that not only doesn't take that long, but it's something that I like to do. Yeah, I think that's a dangerous thing to be like, yeah, this makes sense, because then you're like, yeah, I don't know. That seems like a sort of that's a good way to get narcissistic about it. But yeah, I think those early days were definitely shocking. I mean, the competition is giving me a sort of reminiscent feeling of that. It doesn't feel deserved, to be completely frank with you. I know it's a great song. I think it's a great song, and I think we did a great job on it. But it is like 200. I felt that it. I think if I felt that it was deserved, that would be a problem. Yeah, that would be a major problem.
I agree, bro.
I say to a lot of people that like putting music out on chain has all these like unexpected windows of ways that you can just create opportunity for yourself that are very difficult to even conceptualize and practice. Like, you think about like releasing music on Spotify and whatnot, there's no world where you're just randomly coming up on like 200K worth of tokens, you know, but like in the world of crypto and all this shit that's happening in the market, you know, these things just happen. And I feel like if I had to really go back into the, I I don't know to phrase this right, but like from Optimism's point of view, they're like, hey, we are building this network that we think is really incredible. You know, impact equals profit. There's the super chain narrative that we're building up. We want to bring 1 billion people on chain. They have this whole mission statement. And for them, giving artists these tokens is like literally what the entity is set out to do. And so I think it's really just been interesting for me watching the way in which artists wrap their head around something like receiving OP tokens, whether it be from that airdrop that happened a couple weeks ago for people who are active on chain, or now this art competition. And it's like, yo, it's not rocket science. If you put your music on chain, we're still in an early enough space that things are going to happen. But I think it's also very accurate and true to Lucas's point that if you get comfortable with that and you have an assumption that you're going to get these things, that's when it starts to get dicey. I think that the better way to think about it is that these opportunities may and could exist, and it's one of the reasons to be here, but you are by no means guaranteed anything. But it's worth taking a shot on goal, because the likelihood of something like this happen is 1,000x higher than anywhere else in the world.
That's so true. That's so true. It's like, it's bringing me back to the fact that there is magic in the space, and we're early enough for that to still happen. I remember, it's so funny. There's like a small parallel for me, because I like at my when I was training for my last pilot job, I was like coming up on like that. It was a crazy period. I left training in the midst of that big party bid. I don't know if you remember that for the video party on. And then I went from I finished that, like that party bid finished on the flight to Malibu to work on Glass House for Daniel, I think.
Yeah.
And it was like the craziest euphoric like period. And now I'm at training for my next job, and then this happens. I'm like, I gotta switch jobs more often, man. Something's going on when I get hired at companies, bro. This is the deal. But yeah, brings definitely. Early on, it felt like the magic was flowing more, and now we're on, like, now it's still there, but you got to dig harder for it, and you have to get a little bit luckier.
Yep.
And I think being of the mindset that we do not deserve this by default is the most healthy, correct way to think, in my opinion. Yeah.
A little bit of self-hatred.
A little bit of self-hatred. Well, I think in general, it's been interesting to watch the way in which this competition flowed in relative to the rest of the market, because I think one of the interesting things that is happening lately is that everything is up. Bitcoin's up, ETH's up. If you hold any meme coin, you're up. If you hold any token, virtually you're up. And I think people are really excited about that. You know, it's been 2 years of them being really down bad, you know, crypto basically looking like it's going to zero, everyone hating it. And I think in a lot of ways, it was a very necessary thing to happen. And I'll be the first person to say, I don't even really understand how and why crypto is ripping as hard as it has in the last month, but I'm cool with it. You know what I mean? And I'd say that the one thing that's funny about this competition is that on-chain music didn't see the same come up, like we're up in the same way that everything else in the market has been coming up. You know, there's almost this lag between how much money people make through doing degenerate activities on chain and how much they're willing to give back to artists. And I think that one of my big realizations recently has been that in the first wave of quote unquote music NFTs, it was so new that people were trying to put it next to things like PFPs, putting it next to things like generative art, treating it as this kind of like speculative / future of art type technology. And now I think that people are just kind of over it. And I think they're not really looking at it as like, oh, I'm going to make a bunch of money here. And so it's been a very humbling and realistic resurgence where it's like, okay, these platforms exist. They're really good products. There's good music on here, but you're not just going to wake up to an ETH because you put a song on sound. Like you're going to actually, to Ali's point, you're going to have to dig for it a lot more. And I think that in some ways it's made a lot of the earlier artists who are involved in the space be like, I don't want to dig harder. Like, why would I dig harder when I, was able to make, to Lucas's point, $5,000 for 8 hours of work? Like, I'm just going to wait until that comes back again. And realistically, I don't think that ever will come back again. And so instead, I think that you're seeing now that there's kind of I see it as a separation here. I see it as one camp of artists that are like really committed to the space. They're committed to the quote unquote community, as Ali was saying, and they're showing up every day. They're finding ways to use these new platforms. They're doing the dirty work. They're bridging. They're doing governance. They're doing all this like really heavy crypto shit, because the really heavy crypto shit is what gets crypto people to buy your music. And then you have this other camp of artists, which is people that are like, bro, I don't care about crypto. Just put my music on there. Like if people buy it and I make some extra money on it, like that's great, but I'm not doing all the crypto shit. I'm not going in Twitter spaces. I'm not going in Discord, etc. And I actually think it's a very healthy spot, because now I think we have a lot more clarity around like what it means to be like in the crypto music community. And I think a lot of people are just like, I don't want to do that. And I think that's actually okay and a healthy way for the space to evolve, because we're lowering the expectation that artists need to have when it comes to releasing their music and just having it exist there in the first place.
Yeah, I think it creates. I think the more the sort of dynamic range of artists that are in the space is established early on, I don't that seems like a healthier start to me than like everybody pretending that they're because some artists, myself included, I'm definitely one of those artists that doesn't enjoy, and not just because it's crypto or because it's whatever. I in the past, like I had a song that blew up and then I did like a handful of interviews as a result of it, and I dreaded each interview. And in a sense, I like kind of dread doing this podcast, not because I don't love Cooper, not because I don't love you, Ali. It's just like I'm not a very public person. Like I just like to make my beats and put them out like privately. You know what I mean? So I think, artists being very forthright with, their temperament, because I think that is it's a got to be a big percentage of artists. I know a lot of artists that just don't want to jump through the hoops and aren't interested in the bells and whistles.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that being established early on is important, and that doesn't mean and that can be perceived as being ungrateful or lazy or whatever. But I think it really just does come down to a temperament thing, because I do want to pay my respect to this again buzzword community of people that have given me a lot, but I'm gonna do it my own way. You know what I mean? So I think it's good to establish that.
Yeah, I agree. My mentality on it is that I think that for me specifically, the balance is I do the things that work for me and I don't do the things that don't. And so I'm learning how to responsibly like diversify a crypto portfolio thanks to like 2 years of selling NFTs. And now I have like a little bundle of ETH and now OP that I'm trying to figure out what to do with. And I'm learning about different ways to utilize that. And delegating governance to Cooper is my big accomplishment for the week. But I think that like I think we're getting back to the point where people thought we were in the beginning when we said we were doing crypto music, where they thought like when you tell somebody I'm doing crypto music, they're thinking that you're on here like and now it feels like it feels like there's a pocket of people that are doing that more. And I think that that's really cool because they're into that shit and that's dope. But there's a lot of us, like, I know I'm just repeating y'all's points, but I disagree. There's a lot of us that are just like artists that just are artists, like I have too much going on in my day-to-day life to add like a whole other job of like keeping up with crypto shit. But I do love the space and I love the people and I love the morals and the missions that everybody's fighting for. And I loved it before, we made before we got 50K in these tokens. That's been like a significant thing for the last 3 years of my life since I got into it. And so I think to Lucas's point, in my opinion, I hope none of the degen guys get upset about this, but I feel like it's healthy for artists to come in, contribute their art to the space, and then be around a little bit and have that be like where it ends for us. Because again, if like there's this mentality almost, I think, with artists that we've been subservient to the powers that be for so long that we need to mold to fit whatever they are in any situation. And since we don't have the money, since we're trying to essentially not to be like crude or rude about this, but like since we're like our goal is we come in here, we trade money for music. And so the people with the money have the power. In order to get in with those people, we like speak, and so we speak like them and we talk like them. And we learn about these things and we learn to care about these things because some of us find it interesting. And some of us see like cool creative applications, which is a huge thing for me. Like I was so excited to work with Beat Foundry because I was coming up with like the crazy schemes and whatever. And then, but at its base level, if there was no money going on, nobody would be here. Like it would just be a chat room, and that's cool. But those have a different pocket, and like artists aren't in there like that. Yeah. And so I think that like my hope is that we're able to contribute back to the space when the music clout is there. And I wonder if that comes from just notoriety in general, or whether it comes from us like blowing up as artists and then we're able to kind of give more shine and contribute more. Because right now it's definitely felt like we're all just extracting a lot from everything going on. And then you have people like, there are exceptions like Rio, who's contributed so much to the space, or even like a lot of these artists that are working with companies and partnering and stuff like that. To me, that's contributing in a more serious way that doesn't involve as much of like the heavy duty crypto stuff. You know, obviously Rio does a lot of that. But all that to say, I think it's really a choose your own adventure game.
Totally. I mean, I think there's two things I would take out of that. The first one would be that I do agree that the way that this space gets music clout, quote unquote, is from the artist in the space blowing up, you know, and I think it's something that a lot of crypto people have a tough time swallowing, which is that they just expect the artists that are putting their music on chain to be like fully ride or die for them 100% of the time. And it's like, yo, like I got to go make TikToks. You know what I mean? And I think people are like, oh, but you don't need that, man. Like that world, it's over. Like we're going to the future. Like you don't need labels. You don't need to be on the radio. And people are like, yo, like I want people to listen to my music. Like I'm glad you gave me $1,000, but like I'm also trying to have my music be heard. You know what I mean? And I feel like it's a good place to be in now, where to your point, artists I think are being a lot more rational about how they can be involved with it. And I think that contests like this are really full circle. They're really powerful in the sense that you guys made a great song. It's not like you went out and you were like panhandling every person who's ever collected on Optimism. You made a great song. You told a great story about it. You released it. And I think all of your prior work combined with the quality of this submission is what landed you this amazing prize, which is frankly unbelievable. But I think it's a really strong testament to the fact that the time and energy you do invest in this space is noticed, even if it might not always seem like it. And being able to have that background of having put collectively between the two of you like close to 100 songs on chain, I think did make a big difference in terms of people listening to this submission and being like, yo, I really fuck with this song. And I know that this wasn't just someone like popping out of the blue just to come and like extract 50 KOP. This was someone who's been a long-time contributor to the space. This is a submission that speaks well on the type of art that needs to be included here. And from my perspective, I'm just really stoked for both of you guys, because I know that in your own individual pursuits, you have so much in the pipeline that's really exciting. And I think a prize like this is a great way just to help give you that confidence that you mentioned before, to really take that next leap and make sure that you're able to use this to empower your career in whatever ways you best see fit.
Yeah. Thank you, bro. It's surreal.
Well, I think this is a pretty good place to wrap it. I want to be mindful that we're a little over time here, but in closing thoughts here, anything you want to say about Bloody Bag in particular, about the contest, maybe talk a little bit more about what you have coming down the pipeline and where people can stay up with your work following this episode.
I am so sorry I didn't see your text until just now. Have you been here for a long time? Yes. 30 minutes? Oh, I'm so sorry. 1 second. Why didn't you tell me? Come here. I'm so sorry.
Keep it in.
Yeah, we're keeping it in for sure. We're keeping it in for sure.
I'm so sorry.
Lucas?
Yeah, go to sound, listen to the song, turn off all the lights in your room, get naked, listen to it.
The question was, what do you guys have coming in the future? And where can people stay up with your work? Lucas's response was, go get naked and listen to the song on sound. That's what he has coming down the pipeline.
Probably do more goodie bags, probably show more shit, probably be able to, like, I want to get caught up on with Web 2 and Web 3 music. And so Sweets is out, and now I get to start catching up more. So I'm looking forward to being consistent a little bit more than I have been, and just being around and being a part of it. Riding to the moon.
Love that. Lucas, do you want to add a little bit more to your prior answer? Or do you want to stick with get naked and listen to music on sound?
I kind of, like, in my heart, I want to stick with that and just like end it there. But I feel like I should do the responsible thing and plug a couple things.
Plug away.
Okay. Well, I'm making these hats. I'm making some shirts. I'm making some hoodies. There will be more on that soon. Go follow my Instagram, Bloody White with an X instead of an I. It's complicated, but put it in there. Follow me, please. I need more followers. I need a higher social media presence. I'm working on a Bloody White project. I'm also working on another super secret project that I can't talk about, but I have a lot of music coming. And thank you and good night.
I love that. Full circle moment, guys. It's been amazing to watch your growth in the space as a whole, to be able to get to know you guys as friends and as musicians that I'm just a huge fan of. I can confidently say that I've listened to this song at least 100 times at this point, and I feel like I just keep coming back to it and being so impressed by the level of depth and just the quality of the production and the vocals and everything. So I know we talked about on this episode saying it doesn't feel like it was deserved, but from my perspective, it absolutely feels like it was deserved. Really happy for you guys, and I'm glad that we got some time to unpack it so that other people can listen to the journey and see what comes next.
Thank you, brother. Take a second
I love
to
you.
take a look at this one. Love you, Cooper.
With that in mind, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll catch you guys the next week. Stay safe and good night.
Bye.
Good night.
I've been missing you, I've been missing you.